Here's the thing, despite super low usage, Regidrago is a straight up insane delete button of a Pokemon. The big red orb has got massive 200 HP, which gives it solid bulk despite 50s in both defenses, along with 100 special attack, and physical for that matter, but we're going special because it gets some fun nonsense. Since it's got a mid base 80 speed tier, we slap on a Choice Scarf and all of a sudden with max speed investment, he's moving faster than a Dragapult. And since we can outspeed just about everything, that happens to pair really nicely with its signature move, Dragon Energy. This is essentially a dragon type eruption where if you're at full health, it's a 150 power move, which is solid enough on its own, but then we can factor in its exclusive ability, Dragon's Maw. This multiplies its offensive stat by 1.5 times while using any dragon type attack, and unless you're a fairy, literally nothing is able to safely switch into this thing. If we run low on HP, we can pull out Draco Meteor, which also enjoys the Dragon's Maw boost, and even coverage in things like Earth Power, along with Terra Blast Steel for the fairies. Regidrago does a great job at pressuring massive damage while at the same time just tanking attacks all day long, and today it's finally time to bust out the Danger Sphere. Alright, look, I don't know if it gets much scarier than a giant red orb that somehow found a prehistoric Charizard skull and uses them as arms to shoot dragon energy out of it. I don't know. This thing, Regidrago is crazy. Moral of the story. Even though it's pretty predictable in that it always just spams dragon damage, it's pretty damn good at doing it, and it really doesn't get the respect it deserves. So today, we're showing some love to the Regidrago, and if that sounds like a fun time to you, you should go ahead and hit that subscribe button. More than half the people watching are probably not subscribed, so go ahead and hit the button and help me try to get to 400k. That would be cool. Now, as most people are sleeping on Regidrago these days, somehow Buddy's borderline never used, today's sponsor can in fact help you out with your sleep. Shout out to Manta Sleep. So here's the deal, Manta makes the world's best sleep masks by far. And as a sleep mask enjoyer, my biggest regret is that I didn't replace my old one with this bad boy sooner. I've had my Manta sound mask for quite a while now, and I'll absolutely never go back. While most sleep masks are made of cheap materials, are uncomfortable, and they let too much light in, my Manta sound mask feels super premium all around. It's incredibly comfortable with the eye cup design, and also can confirm it lets absolutely zero light in. I can sleep basically forever. As a side sleeper, I appreciate the fact that they're designed with me in mind. I can even listen to an audiobook while laying on my side, and I gotta admit, it's a pretty big game changer. Earbuds suck for laying on your side trying to listen, so a sleep mask with built-in speakers on the side is amazing. The eye cups are fully adjustable as well as the strap for maximum comfortability, and they've even got a ton of great options for a design that might fit you best. I've got to vouch for the sound mask though, because both me and my wife have been using this one and it's amazing. I'm really happy that Manta reached out because my sleep has never been the same since. So right now you can get 10% off the best sleep mask on the market using my code Haydunn. The link will be in the description, you should definitely check it out. And with that, let's get back into the battle. Alright, so to be honest, from the team preview, I have no idea what this guy wants to lead off with. And I do see an Espeon, so I'm like, you know what, I don't really want to go with a Stealth Rock lead to get magic bounced. So as they end up leading off with the Espeon, I just straight up go with the Regidrago, and I'm like, some dragon damage is nice. They don't have any fairy to soak anything up. I can surprise them with the Choice Scarf, be able to outspeed, and then a Dragon Energy just straight up deletes the kitty right from the start. So that is about as good as it gets. As a lead, I was like, they don't have anything that really wants to switch into this. So I basically grabbed myself a free knockout, and now we're just immediately, dealing with a 6-5 advantage. Bad news is they can switch into Ditto, who just always turns out to be a scarier version of you. It can, I don't really want to risk just staying in and taking a Dragon Energy myself, so I'm basically free to go into the Grand Ball. While I do know that they, mine can steal Terra Blast, theirs, it probably is going to click the Dragon Energy. So Grand Ball being his fairy type says, not today, Mr. Game Sphere. That's not going to work out for you. So at this point, I know they're obviously just going to switch out. They're most likely just scarfed into that. I just figured, you know what? I'm going to go ahead, bop a little play rough. Something's going to take some chip and have a fun time doing it. Now, Ditto being in the back is something you really have to worry about. It kind of eliminates your ability to go for any setup because they can just immediately go Ditto after sacking something, steal your stat boost, and be Choice Scarf faster than you and just ruin your day. So as I play rough, they end up going into Ninetales. It doesn't do a whole bunch of damage, but I get some nice chip there. And then I figure I might as well just click an Earthquake. Literally, why not? Now, they go into the Ninetales to get up the sun. And that's because this damn frog over here is going to be chlorophylling all over the place. Now, the Earthquake does do almost half, which is really nice. But I also know that this bastard is probably going to want to try to get up a growth, right? These things in the sun kind of need that stat boost. They do end up going for the growth. And what they failed to consider was that Granbull has freaking coverage on everything. I can now go for the Psychic Fangs, and we are able to knock out the Venusaur, which is kind of the main sweeper we're worried about there. That thing with Chlorophyll, with the growth, doubling its special attack, could have gotten pretty out of hand pretty damn quick. But shout out to Granbull. This thing honestly provides some solid value. Now, as they end up going back into the Ninetales, they call it a Sun-boosted Flamethrower. No, that is not going to do a damn thing. I'm able to just take it right to the Assault Vest. Doesn't even knock me to half. And then an Earthquake just finishes off the Ninetales. So I'm like, damn, the Granbull kind of going crazy. This thing never really gets to log too many knockouts. But hey, we're feeling pretty good with the Granbull. But as they can now go into the Dragonite, I'm like, all right, an Extreme Speed probably does knock me out, especially if they Terra. Nope, I live it with 8 somehow, which is insane. I didn't even get an Intimidate. We're just out here living stuff. That does allow me to connect with a Play Rough. Unfortunate news is, while I at least break the multi-scale, I kind of just have to sack the Granbull. I don't have much that really wants to switch into a Dragonite, especially I can't really allow it a free spot to set up a Dragon Dance there. So I kind of stay in just in case they wanted to predict a switch, but they don't. So they finished me off with that Extreme Speed. At least what I can do now is bring in the freaking Goat Revenge Killer. And that is, of course, our Regidrago. I decided to click the Dragon Energy just because I'm like, you know what? They still don't have anything that wants to switch into it. An Extreme Speed probably doesn't do much unless they Terra. They do end up going for the Terra Normal, however. And, you know, that is a bit unfortunate. That tells me they are just going to Extreme Speed. And while I know I can live this, I should have clicked a Draco Meteor. You know, sometimes I just get, I just get it crazy going for Dragon Energies. And unfortunately, at the health that I'm at and the neutral hit, it does live that. So, you know, that did not really work out for me. It's fine, though. I at least get some damage there. Regidrago doesn't go down. And as long as that thing has some health, I can now just fire off crazy Draco Meteors later. So, knowing that they're just going to click Extreme Speed once again, I can go into the Ghost type, which I probably should have done earlier. I bring in the Poltegeist because now I'm just an immediately scary as hell Teapot. Problem is, though, I can't really Shell Smash in front of this. If it just goes for something like a Dragon Claw, that's going to smash my Teapot's ass to pieces, and somebody's going to have to come on this beach and sweep that up. So here's the reason why I end up going for the Terra fighting Terra Blast. And that's because as I'm looking at it, I'm like, dude, I don't have any other way to really touch the Dragonite, which is unfortunate. I couldn't really click Stored Power. I obviously cannot Shadow Ball as normal type, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to Terra Fighting and go for that Blast. So as they end up switching, which is kind of unfortunate, I was really hoping to get rid of that Dragonite, they end up going into the Feraligatr, and Dragonite is still now going to be a problem in the back because it has a big Extreme Speed locked and loaded. So at least the Terra Blast does do some big ol' damage to the thing. Sadly, however, without a Shell Smash, I am slow, and now Feraligatr just is able to outspeed, and a Liquidation is, yeah, gonna turn my tea way too watery. Watered down tea is nobody's favorite, so you know that is gonna take care. I probably shouldn't have done that whole Terra sequence. However, guess who comes back in for a Revenge Switch in, baby? Regidrago with a Choice Scarf can outspeed. I can go for a Draco Meteor. They're basically forced to leave in the Feraligatr. That thing gets deleted via a drop and a Draco on his ass. And that's going to be a dead Feraligatr. Bad news is I take that special attack drop, and they have a couple options in terms of switching here. First of all, you know, the Dragonite Extreme Speed hurts, so they end up going into that. It could also have gone Ditto, but they probably just don't want to lock itself into, you know, a Draco Meteor and be in kind of the same spot that I'm in. But they go into the Dragonite here, which is to be expected. A Terra Normal Extreme Speed does knock me out, so I'm kind of forced to make a sack switch here, essentially. I decided to go into the Breloom, and they end up clicking the Outrage here. That is going to knock out the Breloom. However, that feels pretty good. I mean, obviously, I don't have Granbull alive anymore, but knowing this thing is locked into Outrage, that gives me a couple options. So here's the situation. Their final mon in the back is going to be the Ditto. So I need to play around that Ditto, knowing that if I go Regidrago, they would be able to just Revenge Switch in the Ditto, turn into my Regidrago, and then all of a sudden I just lose to my own Regidrago's freaking Dragon Energy. So instead, I decided to go Lycanroc. Reason for that is, first of all, I can just pick this thing off with an Accelerock. Second of all, I know that now Ditto is hard locked into just turning into my Lycanroc, which is great because as they haven't been able to set up any Stealth Rock this match, I come in, I keep my Focus Sash intact. They do Imposter into me. They're going to be faster. However, I know that I can live a close combat for myself. And with that Focus Sash is going to come in clutch because then I can just go ahead and punch them back. So, you know, playing around a Ditto is like playing with fire. This little jelly bastard is always going to put you on the back foot. So they do take that defensive drop, which does help me out. I live with the Sash. I then beat them up, and Rock Doggo goes down. And that's going to solidify the W. Things could have got a little interesting had I not had the Focus Sash. But luckily, sometimes the back pocket Lycanroc with the Sash is able to come in clutch. So that's going to do it for game number 1. Pretty interesting one. Always is when there's a freaking Ditto. But that's now going to bring us into game number 2. And we're going up against a very interesting looking team here. And look, if you've stuck around this far into the video, first of all, you are my favorite. Second of all, go ahead and do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps out the channel. And I promise I'll leave you alone. I won't ask again. But let's go ahead and just get into this next match. All right, so this time, old young cowboy over here is going to go ahead and lead off with the Typhlosion, which is a little bit scary. I decided to go with the Lycanroc here because I feel like I can get up my rocks for free. And as I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, you know, Scarf Typhlosion isn't super ideal here, but I'm going to click the Stealth Rock anyway. And as it turns out, they're going to go for the turn 1 Terra, which is honestly is fine, right? They go for the Terra Grass. I'm always just happy to see people get rid of their Terra early. I'm like, this is going to make my late game much more stress-free, right? So it turns out I actually outspeed with the Stealth Rock. Every time I see a Typhlosion, I'm like, yep, that fella is wearing a Choice Scarf. Turns out, however, since I outspeed, it's not. And as they go for the Terra Blast here, that kind of gives me an interesting spot here, right? Because it does knock me down to my Focus Sash, but that ends up being kind of like what this Lycanroc wants to do, right? Because now I'm at 1 HP. Knowing that I outspeed, I'm pretty free to just click Endeavor here, and that is pretty nice because that brings them down to 1 HP. And it's kind of a funny sequence here. They go for the Eruption, which obviously is going to be able to just have enough to pick off that 1 HP that I've got, but just barely. And that's pretty good value out of the Lycanroc, right? I get some Stealth Rock up. I essentially take care of the Typhlosion. And now, you guessed it, we're switching into the Regidrago, baby. And sometimes you got to switch into Ballin' real quick. The boy be ballin' for real. I go for the Dragon Energy. I'm able to outspeed because I know I'm Scarfed. I know also they don't have a Fairy to switch into that. So that's just a free... That's what we like to call a freebie right there. I'm able to not only take care of the Typhlosion, that's a 2-for-1. They also lose their Terra, and that feels pretty good. So I'm sitting in here locked into Dragon Energy, and we're now faced with an interesting matchup versus the Tripod Dragon, right? So they go into Hydreigon. Now, they saw Regidrago outspeed the Typhlosion, so I'm like, this thing cannot Terra out of this. If they're Choice Scarfed as well, that would be bad. I end up just kind of just going for the Dragon Energy. And check that out. We get the nice little just free knockout on the Hydreigon, which feels good. I honestly I was fairly sure that thing was going to be Choice Scarf itself and just outspeed me, but I decided to roll the dice and it turned out to work out pretty nicely. Now as they go into Gengar, I just delete that thing also. I'm like, well, if you're just going to give me free kills, I will take them. I got another Dragon Energy. Obviously, couldn't use a Focus Sash with the Stealth Rock up, so that, you know, I guess we get some free ones there, which is fine. Now, they end up bringing in Scizor, who can, in fact, you know, take a Dragon Energy. Is that going to stop me from clicking it? No, it is not, because look, that's going to do well over half. And bad news is they end up getting up a Swords Dance. So, you know, Scizor here is going to be a bit scary. First of all, it can now get a +2 Bullet Punch off, and that's not only going to just weaken Regidrago, but that also weakens the damage from freaking Dragon Energy. So instead of staying in here, I decided to conserve the fella. I'm going to end up going into the Grand Bull, who's probably just going to be met with some big meaty claws, obviously via Bullet Punch, but I at least get an Intimidate for the road, and now it's going to bring it to just +1 attack. So that is going to knock out the freaking Grand Bull, and I honestly find myself now a little bit afraid of the Scizor. The good thing is the amount of chip that I have on it makes me feel like I'm still probably safe here, and that's because I can go into the Empoleon. Now, this is a max speed Empoleon, and as I'm looking at it, surely the Scizor is not running max speed as well. I can just go ahead and outspeed and pick it off with a Surf. They do end up going for the Bullet Punch here, I assume, just to grab some chip before they go down. I was considering going for the Terra Ghost to just avoid a close combat, but then I was like, I don't even need to do it. I'm surely going to be faster. I can just drown that thing, and down goes the Scizor. So that's a little bit of a scary threat out of the way. They're now down to 2 Mons left, and as they end up bringing in freaking Mecha Godzilla over here, it is going to get a booster energy, and this thing could also be pretty damn scary if it starts to set up, right? It has the option to Dragon Dance, but since we're in on Empoleon, it kind of is pressured. It knows it's just going to die to a Surf, especially with no Terra. So I just decided to click the Surf. If they want to knock me out, that's fine. They do end up going for the Supercell Slam. It does connect, sadly. Would have been a satisfying miss there. But, you know, sometimes the Supercells, they do connect, and it hurts. So I'm down to 3 Mons left here, and I'm looking at it thinking, you know, Regidrago still has some work to put in here, because since this thing got an attack boost with a Choice Scarf, I should still be faster, and I'm free to just show this thing the kind of energy we're working with. I also love the animation of this move. When it zooms all the way out, you can see like the the just void that we're sitting in existing in this world. But that's going to take care of freaking Godzilla. There's just nothing that wants to take this attack. It hurts, dude. It does not feel good to be on the receiving end of Buddy's energy. So Final Mon is going to end up being, you know, everybody's favorite Pokemon for the 2 weeks when they were going ahead and announcing the mega of this damn thing. But I can just outspeed with Dragon Energy, and we're able to finish this match with a full HP Regidrago, who doesn't often get to find itself in that position. But hey, sometimes you just got to spam Dragon Energy, and this is a pressing A simulator type of mon. That's going to finish off The Malamar there, and that one was just kind of ridiculous, but hey, we got a ton of Dragon Energy kills, so we'll take it. That's now going to bring us into one more match here. And this does turn out to be a pretty interesting one, where the buddy's got some scary threats, and honestly some pretty interesting ones as well. So let's just jump into it. Okay, so what's kind of fun is that this time we're also dealing with a Typhlosion lead, except this time Buddy's a little spookier. They're going with the Hisuian Typhlosion. I just decide to go with the Lycanroc to get my Stealth Rock up. Now, I'm thinking, surely this one's Choice Scarf, right? That's what these damn things are supposed to be. And I'm honestly more afraid of the Ghost one because I cannot click Endeavor on it. So they end up swapping turn 1 here. So we're honestly still unsure what that thing's working with. I just set up my Stealth Rock to play it safe. And as they bring in Serena, this thing just looks at you judgingly. I'm like, what are you judging me for? Long legs. I also am looking at this thing thinking, maybe, I know these things Rapid Spin, right? If they come in on a Stealth Rock turn, is it just going to click Rapid Spin? I decide to roll the dice and switch into the Ghost type to try to Spin Block. But instead, I am met with just being whipped with this thing's hair or something. And that, you know, I am frail on the physical side, and the Spin Block prediction just does not work out for me. I immediately lose the Poltergeist, which is a bad position, and that, you know, kind of hurts. But the game goes on, and now at least on the revenge switching, I decided to go Grand Bull. I can get an Intimidate, which is nice. I'm like, you're not going to be hurting me as bad with the Power Whip, and I just decided to go ahead and click a Play Rough here just to get some chip, see what they want to do. It turns out they are going to swap, and as they bring in Goodra, Hisuian Goodra comes in looking depressed. Who hurt my guy, for real? A Play Rough still, though, is going to do way more damage than I thought, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty nice. I do take some Rocky Helmet, but I'm like, this is fine. I'm just going to be able to finish it off with an Earthquake here. Unfortunately, however, it turns out to be a physical Goodra who does connect on an Iron Tail, and that just deletes Grand Bulls. I'm like, Jesus, I was really hoping for an Assault Vest clutch live on like a Flash Cannon, but nope, instead, physical with a crazy Steel move, and down goes Grand Bull. So, well, that kind of sucks. At least at this point, what I can do is this. I go into the Regidrago, and I smash an Earth Power, and just like that, hey, sometimes you don't have to just click Dragon Energy, and Earth Power is going to be able to do the job, and down goes the Goodra. So the reason why I didn't want to lock myself into a Dragon move is just because of the fact they do have a Fairy type in the back in the form of Pheasantipity. And I was really hoping to be able to catch a prediction, that thing switching in, but doesn't end up working out. And now they decide to bring in Meloetta's tiny 2-inch tall looking ass. So look, Meloetta, not exactly sure what this thing wants to do. But as I bring in Empoleon, they go in for an Alluring Voice, which makes sense because as I at least resist it, it does get a crit, doesn't do much. But it does turn out to be a Throat Spray set. So that kind of leads me to believe it's probably not going to be the one that just transforms into the physical fighting one. So I'm like, all right, if they want to go for a Relic Song, that's fine. It's going to work out for my Terra Ghost. But also, I'm mainly doing this because I'm fearing a Focus Blast, right? It's their best way to hit Steel. So I'm going to go ahead and turn into a Ghost and avoid a nice little Focus Blast shenanigan. And then we're going to see if we can get something going with this Empoleon. So they do end up clicking the Relic Song, though. And at least that being normal type still ends up working out. I'm like, hey, that's fine. And that allows me to now click the Agility. So look, if you've seen this Empoleon video, this thing is here to do some crazy stuff with Metal Sound and a Throat Spray of my own. So now after an Agility, I am faster. I can now go for the Metal Sound, which does connect, which is surprising. It's going to go ahead and drop their special defense harshly, but more importantly, that then gives me my special attack boost. I'm now sitting boosted up with speed, special attack, having a fun time, but here's where it gets interesting. They go for an Alluring Voice, which doesn't do much, but since I had a stat boost on that turn, I now get confused, which is something I always forget that move even freaking does. But now I decide, I'm like, well, time to roll the dice, baby. I do break through the confusion, and a Surf is going to be enough to take care of Meloetta. So this match would have gone south pretty quick had I hit myself in confusion there. But luckily, we're able to break through. But unfortunately, since I turned myself into a Ghost type, I'm now vulnerable to Sucker Punch from friggin' Chien-Pao. But I'm like, you know what? They know I can potentially Metal Sound. Should I try to roll the dice here and get the 50-50 Sucker Punch play? Nope. I go for the attack. They do click the Sucker Punch. And, you know, down goes the Empoleon. So a bit of a mismanagement there on the Empoleon. I figured if I could end that matchup with some decent health, I would have had a shot. But, Chien-Pao is just a damn monster. So, again, on the revenge switch, guess who's coming in, baby? We're going bowling. And the Chien-Pao is going to have to be the bowling pin here because I bring in Regidrago, and at least they don't know that this thing is scarfed at this point, right? I decided to just go for the Draco Meteor, hoping they don't switch into Pheasantipity, and look at that, they don't. I'm able to grab the free knockout on the Chien-Pao, which is huge for this matchup, and that is pretty damn clutch. What does feel bad, though, is that now they know that I'm scarfed, they know I'm locked into that Draco Meteor, and they can freely bring in Pheasantipity. So I got to figure out a way around this damn Pheasantipity, and honestly, whenever there's something I feel like I don't really have a great option against offensively, one thing I try to do is Lycanroc's, Endeavor nonsense. So I go into Lycanroc. As they click the Cross Poison, I was thinking probably play rough, but no, the Cross Poison comes through. It doesn't do much, but it gets the Toxic Chain, which is unfortunate. But now I find myself without a Focus Sash intact. I'm like, I don't have the best option. Main thing I really need is just some type of damage here. I need to get this thing into range to where an Earth Power can knock it out from Regidrago. As I end up going for the Endeavor, I feel like it probably just does similar damage to just clicking Accelerock. So I go Endeavor there. It turns out they click Flatter, which is wild because now that's going to boost my special attack. Does confuse me. I was thinking Mirror Herb, but nope, it's just Flattering for the love of the game. So now I'm confused once again in this match, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to go for an Accelerock. If I can just get this thing down to around half, Regidrago just finishes it with an Earth Power, and that's the main goal here, is to get that amount of chips. So it turns out Accelerock misses somehow. Does that mean this thing has to be holding Bright Powder? What the hell is up with that? I miss an Accelerock, which is wild. Now it's able to get up a freaking Roost, and it's all the way back to full. And again, I really need chip on this thing. So at least since I'm lowering myself with the freaking poison, I go for an Endeavor, and that feels pretty good. Because now, look, as Lycanroc goes down, I end the matchup with just like huge damage on the Fazandipity, and honestly, that feels perfect because now I have it in range. It is still a little bit scary though, because I know it can Roost, but at least an Earth Power from Regidrago is in a position to pick it off here. So I'm forced to go into the Regidrago, and as they go for the Terra, I'm thinking, surely it's not a Terra Flying, right? A Terra Flying here would be diabolical. Yep, it is going to be Terra Flying, but he pulls out the balloons in the worst possible situation, and this Fazandipity is becoming more of a problem than I would like it to freaking be. Now, an Earthbait's floating above an Earth Power, which sucks. I mean, it has wings. It probably could have anyway, but it allows it to get off a Cross Poison, which does a ton with a crit, and gets a Toxic Chain, and I'm locked into Earth Power, so I have found myself in pain, mostly. So all I have in the back is going to be Breloom, and obviously I need to switch this thing out because I'm just, stuck into Earth Power, so I'm forced to go Breloom, and this late game is going to get real crazy because I took some damage, so I'm no longer able to go for Dragon Energy. I basically go Breloom here, hoping that maybe I can take an attack from it or something. It goes for the Roost. It's going to get itself nice and healthy again. And as I at least activate my Toxic Orb, shout out to this Breloom. Check out the Breloom video. This set is ridiculous and it's kind of fun. But I decided to try to get off a Facade here. If I can get off a Facade, we'll be in pretty good shape. But it now has the ability to go for a 4-time super effective Terra boosted Brave Bird. And that is just going to straight up cut me into little pieces and saute my ass for, for dinner. So, that's going to take care of Breloom. While it does take some recoil from that, all I have left is Regidrago, and it's time to see if we can clutch this out with my most clutch mon on the squad, right? I at least will be able to outspeed, and unfortunately, once again, I have to lock myself into Draco Meteor. I do not have the health to be able to click Dragon Energy, so I go for that Draco Meteor. While it does take care of the Fazandipity, which at least is good to see that evil bastard gone, I'm now in a spot where I took that special attack drop, and all I can really do is continue to spam that. And that's why it's so unfortunate that that thing had the Terra Flying, is because if I would have been able to pick it off, then I could have gone Breloom and then back into Regidrago and then hopefully try to, clean up the final 2 mons. As they end up bringing in the Typhlosion, here's where it gets serious, because I'm like, if this thing's Scarf, it just outspeeds me. And it is going to be Choice Scarf, sadly. They're going to be able to finish me with an Infernal Parade and rain on my parade in the freaking process. So that is it. That's a well-played late game by my opponent there. The Terra was clutch. Overall, good plays on their end. And sometimes, it's the way it goes. Still a close match. Had some fun with it. Some misplays end up costing me the match, but there's the way it goes. We had some fun anyway, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.